The incredible story I'm going to tell you today took place in Italy in 1939. Leonarda Cianciulli, a soap merchant from the town of Correggio, offered her fragrant wares to the townspeople while treating them to homemade cookies. However, the ingredients of these products were somewhat unusual, though this wouldn't be discovered until much later. Leonarda Cianciulli was born on November 14, 1893, in Montella, a town in the Italian province of Avellino. From an early age, the girl suffered from a lack of maternal love. Her mother Emilia truly didn't love her, as her daughter was the product of assault, and therefore she often mistreated and even beat her. Every time her mother looked at her daughter, she was reminded of the reason for her marriage to a man she didn't love. At a very young age, Leonarda twice attempted to take her own life to escape the abuse and beatings that had become unbearable for her. In 1914, after meeting a young man named Raphael Pansardi, a postal worker, she decided to marry him. More than anything in the world, she wanted to leave her parents' home, so she didn't hesitate for a second in her decision. However, her parents opposed the marriage as they had planned to marry her off to her cousin. After the wedding, Leonarda's mother was so angry with her that she cursed her for the rest of her days. Leonarda pretended not to care and settled with her husband in the small town of Loria in Alta Irpinia. Everything seemed fine in the couple's life. But just a few years after the wedding, Raphael began drinking constantly. A desperate need for money led Leonarda to prison, where she was placed for fraud, but even years later, the family's situation hadn't improved. In 1930, a powerful earthquake with a magnitude of 6.7 struck the Italian region, resulting in significant loss of life and widespread destruction of buildings. Leonarda's house was also damaged by the earthquake, and having lost their home, the family moved back to Correggio. Leonarda's maternal instinct manifested with extraordinary force. The emotional wounds received in childhood may have been the reason for her numerous attempts to become a mother. She went through 17 pregnancies. However, fate proved cruel. 13 children couldn't be saved, with 10 infants leaving this world in their first months of life, and 3 never making it to birth. The 4 surviving children were under Leonarda's constant care, as she tried with all her might to protect them from her mother's curse. Once she visited a fortune teller to learn what lay ahead. The seer predicted 2 paths for her. One led to prison, the other to a psychiatric hospital. At night, Leonarda was haunted by nightmares. She saw small white coffins, one after another being swallowed by the earth. Desperate from the constant loss of children, she immersed herself in studying occult sciences, palmistry, astronomy, magical incantations, and spiritualism. During this time, her husband sank deeper into alcohol dependency. The family's financial situation became increasingly dire. The couple constantly argued, which eventually led to their decision to separate. After the divorce, Leonarda settled with her 4 children in a 3rd-floor apartment on Via Cavour. There, despite her mother's grim prophecies, she attempted to start a new life by opening a small trading shop. Fortune finally seemed to smile upon Leonarda. Her small business selling second-hand clothes and soap was thriving, and she earned additional income from tarot card readings, a skill she developed through her long-standing fascination with occultism and dark magic. Thanks to her friendly nature and willingness to help, Leonarda earned genuine respect from local residents. From the outside, her family appeared exemplary. Her 4 children were diligent students and popular among their peers. After the divorce, Leonarda maintained a good relationship with her ex-husband, allowing him regular visits with the children. She was also known for her hospitality, often inviting female neighbors over for tea. However, the idyllic period ended when her beloved son Giuseppe decided to join the Italian army during the Second World War. This event was a severe shock to her. The separation from her son triggered deep anxiety and panic within her, and her superstitious nature led her to believe she needed to resort to dark forces for help. As a result, Leonarda devised a monstrous plan involving human sacrifices to protect her son from all possible misfortunes. She used tarot cards as bait, which proved to be a highly effective method of attracting potential victims. Soon, Leonarda realized she wouldn't even need to search for new victims. she already had 3 regular visitors. These lonely elderly women regularly came to her for support and life advice. In Leonarda's close circle of friends were 3 remarkable individuals. Clementina Soavi, a lonely woman who dedicated herself to caring for local children. Virginia Cacioppo, a former opera star who had traveled half the world and earned public acclaim. And Faustina Setti, a simple but strong-willed village woman who could barely read. This trio often gathered at Leonarda's house, spending long evenings in conversation. The thought of possible separation from her son pushed Leonarda to take decisive action. She firmly decided to act before it was too late and while she still had the chance to see her beloved son. Faustina Setti was the first in her path, whose life ended on December 17, 1939. In the days leading up to the tragedy, Leonarda had predicted an imminent marriage for her friend. On that fateful day, Faustina crossed the threshold of Leonarda's house, and no one ever saw her again. If you enjoyed this video, please support my channel by subscribing and hit the bell icon to never miss my next video. The day before Faustina Setti's disappearance, she had asked a neighbor to look after her cats, explaining she was going on a trip. A tarot reading by Leonarda had promised her a meeting with her destined husband. On that memorable day, December 17th, she prepared particularly carefully for her outing. Faustina styled her hair in an elaborate hairdo, applied makeup, and generously perfumed herself. Her unusual excitement was noticeable. She couldn't contain her joy and shared with some acquaintances her plans for an upcoming marriage and relocation to a southern Italian city. The residents of Correggio last saw her entering Leonarda's house. After that, she seemed to vanish into thin air. However, her disappearance didn't cause alarm. Everyone believed she had gone to meet her happiness, and the visit to her friend was a farewell. The reality, however, proved far grimmer. Leonarda convinced her friend that she would meet her future husband in southern Italy, even naming a specific city. This man was supposedly her own friend who dreamed of meeting Faustina. Seizing the moment, Leonarda offered to take care of her friend's property during her departure and made her sign a notarized letter stating that she would remain in charge of managing Faustina's savings. Leonarda asked Faustina not to tell anyone to avoid gossip and misfortune. Leonarda also added that she would be happy if Faustina stopped by to say goodbye before her departure. When Leonarda met Faustina at the door, she looked happy and well-dressed. The hostess offered her guest a glass of wine, which she had laced with sleeping pills. As soon as Faustina fell asleep, Leonarda dragged her into a small room, took an axe, and cut the body into 9 pieces. After this, she took 2 pre-prepared basins, placed the body fragments in them, and then filled a pot with water, which she had bought specifically for soap making, and put it on the fire to boil. She then added 7 kilograms of caustic soda and the body parts to the pot. Leonarda stirred the mixture until the victim's body fragments dissolved and turned black. Then she poured the resulting mixture into buckets to let it settle. Looking at the mixture, Leonarda thought for a moment and said, "Now we have enough soap for 6 months." As for the victim's blood, Leonarda waited for it to coagulate and put it in the oven to dry. Then the criminal mixed this ingredient with flour, added sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs. She mixed everything thoroughly and baked crispy cookies, which she distributed to her next guests, ate herself, and shared with her children. Faustina's disappearance went unnoticed. The residents of Correggio knew about their neighbor's intentions to move to southern Italy. Since she was alone, no one raised an alarm or suspected anything strange about her disappearance. Life went on as usual. However, 9 months later, on September 5, 1940, Leonarda decided to execute her plan again, choosing Clementina Soavi as her new victim. Shortly before the next murder, Leonarda had predicted to her friend that she would soon leave Correggio to take up a position as director of a boarding school in Piacenza, because one of her friends, the director of that school, was ready to take her as his replacement. Following the same scheme as before, she convinced her second victim to keep this happy news secret to avoid jinxing it. Instead, she advised Francesca to send postcards to relatives announcing her move to Piacenza for a new job. Leonarda also offered to manage her friend's property and its potential sale. Events unfolded according to the already established scenario. Clementina came to say goodbye, drank the poison wine, after which Leonarda took her life, dismembered the body, and used the remains to make soap and her signature cookies. Clementina's disappearance didn't raise suspicions. Everyone was convinced she had gotten a good job and simply hadn't had time to say goodbye to everyone, entrusting her financial affairs to Leonarda. 2 months later, on November 30, 1940, convinced of the effectiveness of her sacrifices, Leonarda planned her third murder. This time she chose 59-year-old opera singer Virginia Cacioppo. Reading the cards, Leonarda predicted imminent changes in Virginia's fate. She told the singer about a secretary position at a Florence theater that supposedly needed someone with knowledge of opera, and this position could be Virginia's. After this, Leonarda made her friend promise to keep everything secret, as in previous cases. However, the future victim, breaking her word, shared the joyful news with her close ones. At noon on November 30, Virginia crossed the threshold of Leonarda's house. She had no idea that Virginia's daughter-in-law had noticed her arrival but didn't see her leave the house. Events unfolded according to the established scenario, but this time Virginia acted more methodically. To the boiling pot with the remains, she added a bottle of cologne, which gave the mixture an exquisite aroma. After several hours, Leonarda obtained excellent soap with a delicate texture. Then she returned to her favorite activity, baking desserts that were famous for their unique taste. Everyone who had tried them called them true culinary masterpieces, while Leonarda spoke of a secret family recipe. In the following days, she generously gave neighbors pieces of soap and treated them to her famous cookies. The townspeople sincerely admired this kind and responsive woman. Meanwhile, Albertina Fanti, Virginia's daughter-in-law, began to worry about her mother-in-law's sudden disappearance. The lack of any information about her whereabouts seemed strange, as she usually always informed others of her plans. The worried Albertina decided to report the disappearance to the police chief of Correggio. During questioning, Albertina mentioned that she had last seen Virginia entering Leonarda Cianciulli's house. The investigation revealed that 2 other friends of Leonarda had also gone missing. Further investigation uncovered shocking details of this crime, which not only struck with its brutality but also caused mass horror among local residents. It turned out that they had all been consuming cookies and using soap that contained the remains of Leonarda's victims. During the search of Leonarda's house, police made gruesome discoveries. Behind the brickwork, they found jewelry and personal belongings of all 3 victims. Particularly shocking was the discovery of the murdered women's dentures. In one of the rooms, investigators found the murder weapons: 3 axes, a set of knives, and the very pot where the criminal had boiled human remains to make soap. These sinister items are now kept in the Criminological Museum of Rome. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Leonarda detailed her crimes. She described how she meticulously planned each murder, luring victims with promises of a wonderful future, whether it was a dream job or romantic relationships. After gaining their complete trust, she obtained property deeds from them. Then came the invariable ritual: a glass of wine laced with sleeping pills, a fatal axe blow, and methodical dismemberment of bodies for subsequent soap making. The investigation checked the men to whom Clementina and Virginia were supposedly traveling, initially suspecting the existence of a criminal group. However, the investigation showed their complete innocence. They weren't even aware of the planned crimes. Leonarda's son also fell under suspicion and was arrested as a presumed accomplice, as investigators found it incredible that a woman had acted alone. After 5 years of pre-trial detention, Giuseppe was released due to lack of evidence. Leonarda persistently convinced the court of her son's innocence, taking all responsibility herself. To definitively clear Giuseppe of suspicion, she was brought to the morgue to demonstrate her body handling skills. To the amazement of those present, she performed the anatomization in just 12 minutes. The trial began on June 12, 1946. During the hearings, Leonarda tried to justify her monstrous acts with mystical reasons. According to her, Her mother's ghost appeared to her in dreams, threatening to kill her children if she didn't sacrifice innocent souls. During one day of the trial, a court expert expressed doubt about the possibility of making soap from human remains. In response to this, Leonarda, rising from the defendant's bench, made a shocking offer: "Provide me with a body of any age, and I will demonstrate the entire process right here." At the conclusion of the court hearings, she received a harsh sentence: 30 years in prison followed by 3 years in the Potswali Women's Psychiatric Institution. It was there, on October 15, 1970, at the age of 77, that her life was ended by a stroke. This case remains one of the most astonishing in criminal history. None of the local residents could have imagined that their kind neighbor, known for her hospitality, would be capable of such atrocities and even involve the entire neighborhood by making people eat cookies and wash with soap containing the bodies of her victims. The story of Leonarda Cianciulli became a grim reminder that behind a mask of respectability can hide a monstrous nature.
La legge mi ha condannato. E che mi importa della sua condanna? 30 anni l'ergastolo e la fucilazione. Ma che mi interessa a me? 17 figli. Ah, cari miei, se anche a voi moriranno 13 figli, non solo faresti ciò che ho fatto io. Una madre solo può comprendermi, la legge mai. Forse la scienza mi ha compreso.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you didn't, feel free to give it a dislike. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.